Well, hello everybody. Welcome to lesson number 16 in Learn to Draw in 30 Days. Today we're going to be doing something really fun. I first learned this when I was in college myself. It's called reverse drawing. So we're basically going to be putting down some value right at the start and then pulling out the highlights with our eraser. So we're drawing kind of backwards. So sharpen your pencil, get an eraser and some paper, and let's go. I've been looking forward to this one. This is fun. So we're going to do a reverse drawing, and the first step is figure out the dimensions that you would like for your drawing to be. Here's our reference. We're going to draw these pairs. So I'm going to make it kind of small because this can take a little while. I'm drawing a rectangle that represents the border of my picture. Okay, and then once you have the border defined, take a soft pencil. I'm going to use my 8B and fill in that whole area. I have the pencil on its side. You don't want to go too dark, and you don't want to really press into the paper so that it makes grooves or indentations. You want to keep it kind of light, kind of soft, but evenly fill in this whole section. The idea of a reverse drawing is that we're putting down some value first, and we're going to basically be drawing this picture with our eraser by finding all the highlight areas. It's a really good challenge. It makes you look at things differently, and you know I love that. You know I love making you think outside the box, so to speak. There are a lot of other ways to do this too. You can actually buy toned paper, so like gray paper or different colors of paper, and then just use a white colored pencil or white charcoal. That works well also. You can also buy graphite powder, which is basically your pencil lead but ground up into a powder, and you can kind of dump that on and smear it around. Now what I like to do is take a paper towel or a tissue and wrap it around my finger. So you might need to pause me to go and grab that, since this is the first you're hearing that you might need that today, sorry. And once you have it, take it and just kind of use it to blend everything together, smooth it out a little bit. You could also use your finger, I suppose, if you don't mind getting dirty. All right, once you have it pretty evenly distributed, then we're going to start our drawing. I'm excited. Now, I like to use my kneaded eraser. I know I've shown you this already. You can just shape it however you want. So we are going to look at the shapes of the highlights in this image. I know we've done a class before where we drew the shadow shapes. This time we're drawing the highlight shapes. So I've kind of made my eraser into a little bit of a point, and I'm going to start with the pair that's closest to us, right in the front. So it has a little bit of a light at the top like that, and then the shape of the highlight looks to be about like this. It comes down this way, and then over on this side. See, this is what I love about this eraser. Whatever shape you need it to be, you can kind of configure it as you go. So I want it to curve around and create that edge of the pear. Now, if you erase away more than you intend to, and you need to put some of the value back, I haven't necessarily done that in this case, but if you need to, you just take your paper towel again and you go in and you just cover it right back up and it'll fill in. All right, so there's my first pair. Now the second one, that highlight shape kind of starts right out of here, right out of the top of the first one. And it curves around, comes up, out like that, and then comes down. This is a great image for this because it's got some really good shadow shapes. Now what I'm going to try and do is be extra tricky, always, you know. I'm going to put in the stem of this front pair first, and I might grab a different eraser for that. Let me see. I happen to have just this little white eraser that has a little bit of a harder edge. So if you have even an eraser that's on the back of a pencil would work well if you need to just make any little thin lines. So I'm going to erase away the highlight that I see on that stem. Okay. And now I can sort of work this one around that a little bit better, because this highlight is the brightest here, I would say. And then as it moves to the right, it starts to get a little bit darker. So it's not like the same all the way. Do you see that? So as I erase, I didn't press as hard with the eraser there, so it didn't lift up quite as much of the graphite. It'll take a little bit to get used to this technique. It's very different than anything we've done before. And just know that you can always go back and add more back into it if you need to. All right, we've got one more pair to go. And before I do that pair, what I'm seeing is that the table, the light that's hitting the table, is actually brighter than the pair itself. So let me sort of just roughly sketch in about where that pair is going to be. It sort of comes, the top is about here, and then it kind of wraps around, I don't know, like that. Okay. So instead of erasing inside the pair at first, I'm actually going to come outside the pair. And then right from the top of it, there's a diagonal shadow. It goes about like that. All of this is pretty light. And then it comes around this pair, about there. I think I made my pair a little too skinny, so I'm going to actually fill in some of that a little bit. And then, let's see, it comes down, and then there's the shadow of the pair on the table. So many shapes, so many shadows! So it comes down like this. And then it comes over and kind of meets right at the bottom of this pair, which then, I'm going to take my other eraser to just define that edge a little better. Whenever you need a nice clean edge, a harder eraser is a little bit better for that. But the downside is you get all those little shavings. There we go. All right. Next shadow comes down like this. And then comes back up. We're just drawing shapes. We're not drawing pairs. You know that. And this diagonal line that we started over here has to continue. So we want to make sure that it makes sense where we are picking it back up over here. Comes over a little further because there's that other shadow. There we go. Maybe this even comes in a little more. There. Got it. You have to always look at the shapes of your positive and negative space to figure this stuff out. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to lift up all of this down here. Maybe use a little bit bigger section of the eraser for that when you have a larger area to erase. Okay. And then I am going to come in and create the highlights now on this side of this pair, but I'm not erasing. You see how I'm still allowing it to be darker than the table in that part. Okay. There is a really nice strong highlight right on the top of that pair, so I'm going to put that in. Just like when you're drawing with a pencil, you can still like identify subtle shifts in value where you see really strong lights, more medium values. There's a real strong highlight on this pair, so I'm going to pull that out. Strong highlight up here. And if you take a soft pencil like an 8B or a 6B, you can also go in and add darker value to it. And that's what will really start to make this all pop. So when you're working on a white piece of paper, you're kind of starting from that point of having the lightest possible value and working your way towards dark. When you do the reverse drawing, you're starting more maybe in the middle or even towards the dark end, depending on how dark you go with that first layer. Little negative space there, little shadow. You see that? Look at you. I'm getting you trained to really look like an artist, huh? You are an artist. It's not like you're impersonating one. You are an artist. Okay. A little stem up here, but it's kind of fading into the shadow. You don't see it too well. Now we'll get this side. Get the side of the stem. Maybe do a little bit of shading on the pear. And if you notice, that pear is the darkest right about here, and then it gets a little bit lighter towards the edge, and that's that reflected light that we talked about in the previous lesson, where the light's kind of wrapping around and making that edge of it a little bit lighter. It's still in shadow, but it's making it a little bit lighter. And darken my shadow here, darken this shadow. All right. There's our reverse drawing. Great work, everyone. If you're like me, you probably have pencil lead all over yourself at this point, so you might want to go clean yourselves up. I hope you enjoyed that lesson. It's one of my favorite ways to draw. It really makes me think about the value structure, which is so important. As always, share your progress with us. I love to see your art. Join our Facebook group for Art Makes Us. Post away, comment on each other's work. Let's really make this all about our art community, because I know there are a lot of you out there taking these classes and I want to see what you're making. In tomorrow's lesson, lesson number 17, we're going to be learning about 1-point perspective. So I'll see you then. Bye-bye.